Hi everyone, welcome to Value. So today we're looking at a company that we all know so well. This is a company that we watched list on the market back in the days. You remember it. It's been so long since then, but we remember those really good times. But recently, most people might remember the really bad times, because it's just been dropping and dropping, which is a far cry from the top when it was like, was it, yeah, in the 40s. So yeah, like at $6.80, which is, so low. Back then we would have been like, oh, we were kicking ourselves because we didn't buy it when it was low, and then when it got so high, we were just like, oh, there's so much potential in this company, why wouldn't you want to own it? And then now in hindsight, it's like, oh wow, it's really dropped a lot. And the biggest reasons why it's dropped so much is, firstly, they raised money when they said they wouldn't raise money, and they just did it quite a few times. In hindsight, it's a masterstroke because they managed to raise at higher prices, so it meant dilution wasn't as big. But it meant anyone who bought it at that time also wasn't in a great situation. They've also had quite a few delays on basically starting their commercial service. And basically you can see this whole red 9% down. That's because it's on this whole headline that Virgin Galactic pushes commercial flights to 2023, which is again really disappointing as well. So basically they're blaming the latest delay on supply chain and labour issues. They've also cited that they can't get enough staff. So with that, they're actually forced to kind of delay it again, which is, really disappointing. Like, especially if you're holding shares and you're really hoping they get into flight. Like, it means, it's one of those things that, hey, yeah, if you wait long enough, eventually they will get into commercial service, because we've seen your test flights, they are capable of this. It just means, basically they're at a point where they just have to get things sorted. There's a lot of technical issues, namely with the first kind of basically spacecraft that they were using. That didn't. I think that was getting too old. It wasn't able to fly as often as possible, so hence they've delayed that, and then they're focusing on trying to get more of the newer models out. At least that's what seems to be the strategy anyway. But yeah, basically at this current stage, I think it's more or less closer to the bottom right anyway. If not, like, you're looking at a company that basically has 1.22 billion dollars in cash. So that's a lot of money that they're just holding. Basically they're at 1.75 billion in market value. If this company pricing drops any more, they'll be basically worth what they hold in cash, which will just be literally insane. But it's very possible, which kind of makes me think about this kind of being closer to the bottom now, because at their current burn rate, they're burning about $100 million every quarter, or kind of around there. Sometimes they're burning less, sometimes they're burning more. So I think their forecast was they were going to they're going to be negative 80 to 90 million for the second quarter, which is even less than 100 million that I'm basically saying. But they were basically, like, if you look at the past quarters, the quarter up to March 31st, they lost 98 million. And if we take it a year ago, they lost 129 million. So they're clearly trying to reduce costs as well. But at 100 million burn rate, up till like next year, we're talking about maybe about 3 more quarters to go. Then they're basically, like, looking about 300 million. If we count 4 quarters, maybe 400 million. So by the end, before, once they're closer around commercial flights, they could be holding around 800 million in cash, which would still be pretty decent. So again, the cash position is very healthy for the company. If we're looking at the positives, the one thing they did really well was raise cash, and right now, it's in hindsight of the current market conditions, holding cash is kind of really important, which kind of makes this company quite secure. Like, I think if this company comes down a little bit more, then it's kind of like one of those companies that's kind of like a must buy, because it's literally at that situation where it can't go any further unless they just manage to mess things up again. Like, I don't know how many times they can mess things up. Like, obviously they've delayed things so many times that a lot of people have probably lost confidence in this company and going, where is this company truly at? Like, it just feels like management hasn't been entirely honest about the problems they have, and they're just trying to they're just trying to coat everything in kind of like a nice kind of Disney type feel, basically, because you basically have a CEO who came from Disney, and you can kind of see it in the way the company just sells itself as well, though. Like, there's a nice new logo that looks spectacular, of course. The way they sell themselves, like just this whole theme of purple, how it just goes like space for the curious. I like how they're kind of selling the whole company and the whole kind of commercial service, that it kind of makes people, want to maybe take a trip to space, but depends if it's with Virgin Galactic or it's with, Blue Origin or with another company. Like, the longer they take, the more the competitors start to catch up with them, and the less kind of advantage they kind of have. But the same thing rings true again as well. If they're having so many problems, then probably their competition is going to have a lot of problems too, trying to compete with them, trying to at least get to this commercial phase. But yeah, like, they do sell themselves very well. Like, the graphics is nice. They communicate these things like really, really well. The one thing they don't communicate very well is how the company's actually technically progressing. They just kind of like delay dates and hope that it works. But yeah, like, we'll have to kind of, I guess, see things how it goes in the future. Like, I think possibly at this point it's too early to buy into it now, because right now you're looking at a situation where you're possibly looking around a 9 months waiting time before they actually get into commercial service. And in between, we're watching market volatilities. Interest rates are rising, stocks are kind of dropping, so we don't really have a lot of faith in when things are going to do really, really well. Maybe in, like, 4 or 5 months time, we can reassess this and go, is this company still on track? And then, is the price basically at a ground floor that basically you would buy it? Like, if I look at the stock right now and I go, what was the price that I would buy it regardless of what's happening? That would be basically $4 or $4.50, because that's basically where that price, where the amount of cash they hold basically equals the value of the company, which would be shocking. Like, you're buying a company that spent basically 20 years doing all this R&D, developing where they are right now, spending so much cash, and basically you get a company just with its cash. So that's the crazy part. Like, even now, if you consider all the R&D that's been that's been put into this company and where they are right now, they're definitely worth more than $1.75 billion. But the thing is, we're in this market where things are really, they're sold right down to the bottom. There's not a lot of confidence. Interest rates are rising. And this company just keeps putting delay after delay, which kind of causes this mistrust between shareholders and management, and going, how are we meant to believe you when you constantly just break your promises? Like, you promise you won't raise cash, but you do. You keep putting deadlines out here around when you're actually going to commence commercial service, but you keep delaying it. And if you've got problems, let shareholders know. Let the whole, like, if you keep delaying, then this causes like this basic part of uncertainty. And then with uncertainty, basically, people don't have confidence to invest in companies that they don't have certainty in. And basically, this is where we are right now, where we're basically looking at a company that's selling at a really, really low value. And like, they're holding $1 billion in cash, yet they were only worth $1.75 billion. So it doesn't value the whole space service at a high value right now, which you can kind of look at as an opportunity. But with this uncertainty, you also want to just like tailor that kind of perspective to to a certain way. You don't want to go like, oh, actually, it's a great value company right now, I want to buy it at the bottom. Which is great thinking. Like, that's great thinking to go, I want to buy this company at the bottom. But the thing is this the bottom yet? Like, potentially it is. Like, potentially you could buy a little bit and then go, if I hold 9 months and they go into commercial service, then you're in the green. But if you hold 9 months and they delay again, then you're basically losing time. But I don't think you lose too much. Like, the amount of value this company could drop any further, like, it would probably be quite insane to go that it's going to drop too much further. Like, it probably could drop further. Like, in today's market, anything goes. But out of a lot of companies that are actually have come down to these levels, you can basically go, Virgin Galactic's one of those companies that basically, it's quite good value right now, but it means you have to wait for them to get into commercial service before they're actually valuable. And the thing is, that's a long waiting time. But again, if you believe in the company and you believe in the longer term of the company and you're here for, if you're willing to hold for years, then at this pricing, you would be basically making money. But if you're only in it for the short term, if you're going, oh, I'm only here till they start commercial service. The thing is, we don't know when they're actually going to start commercial service, which kind of leaves you kind of with this uncertainty regarding what your position's going to turn out like. But yeah, I think we all know where we're at right now. There's no really necessary kind of part to go into other things. It's just like, basically they have tested there's basically their first spaceship, and then they've got their second one, which they need to do a bit more testing, and they said at the end of the year, which is quite a bit of time again. So in my opinion, I do want to see them get really close to the testing of their newer spaceships. So then we actually have a certainty around when they might actually commence like commercial service. But in saying that, if the price of this continues to come lower, then it's kind of like an irresistible kind of buy, because it's like the amount of time and research and money that's gone into making this company what it is today, there is value in that. The problem is we can't place value on it because we don't have the certainty of when they actually will generate revenue. But I can say the cash reserves kind of gives you a big confidence boost that no matter what, they've got enough cash to kind of keep them going, which is kind of what made me kind of skeptical in a sense about the company, because they basically started raising money when they were getting closer to, as they would say, commercial service at the time. So it kind of looked like they already knew they had technical problems, they just didn't show it as much, and they just probably tried to take advantage of the situation and raise as much money as possible, which, in their sense, it was a good idea, but it was terrible for shareholders, which is kind of what you want to watch for with these companies, particularly the risky ones. That management may not always do everything in your favor as a shareholder, so you do have to do your research. You do have to kind of watch out that, hey, these companies do have quite a bit of risk. So in terms of decisions, like, you basically have, if you don't hold shares and you look at this and you go, is this worth buying? Potentially, yeah, like potentially you could be buying shares in this and holding out for next year. If you hold shares right now and you go, I brought it at a really high price, what do I do now? You can either just continue holding, wait for it to come back, or you can buy more shares and kind of lower your costs, because at the current pricing it is quite low. Or you have a other kind of alternative where you could just be waiting and you go, I'll wait another 4 or 5 months to see where the progress of this company is, and then make a decision on that, which is probably the best kind of decision, because you want to just wait for certainty to arrive. Unless the company gets just so dirt cheap that it's basically worth its cash, then basically that's where you really might want to consider getting in as well. So it's a matter of just watching, is basically the price going to come down to a level where you basically would feel stupid not buying, or would basically you wait for the certainty of the company before you feel like these shares are actually going to be worth something in the future. So it's either price comes down so low that you just have to buy, or you waited long enough for them to confirm that they're actually on course, then you kind of look at buying more shares. That's kind of how I'd kind of assess it anyway. Apart from that, the company itself, it's a big waiting game, and like I don't feel like there's no just immediate decision around this point at this time anyway. I don't think it's worth selling anyway, because if you're holding shares in this and you're looking at the pricing and you go like, it's really low, like it wouldn't be worth selling at this point. But I would probably look at giving it more time. Like I'd say give it probably 4 or 5 months, see where the progress of the company is going. Like, it's never ideal having to wait, but the whole idea of the current situation, like currently we're in a market where buying isn't as ideal as it used to be. So I think it's just one of those things you just wait it out, and basically hope for the best. Like I think overall, I think the company's got, they've got some good technology in them, but they just can't seem to realize it, which is kind of the disappointing part. Hopefully no more delays, but obviously we'll track this company as we go. If you've got any questions, post below, or if you're holding shares or something, got an opinion, share it below. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.